and welcome to the Comprehensive Assessment of Leadership for Learning, or CALL. This short presentation will introduce you to the CALL system by discussing the foundation of and theory behind CALL, as well as show how the CALL system operates. We begin with a common assertion found across educational research, which is that effective leadership is a significant factor in advancing student learning. However, the key here is that we are talking about leadership as a practice rather than an individual leader. Also, while of course we recognize that leadership needs to be effective, how do we actually know that it is effective? We will address that soon. There is a common misconception that an individual school leader can enter a struggling school and, like a superhero, save the day. That it is the work of a single person that makes all the difference in a school's success. Well, we know from studying and working in schools that that is simply not the case. Because if you wanted to determine the effectiveness of an individual school principal and assessed that individual's performance, you would get some interesting information. However, by doing so, you are overlooking the work of many other people in the school building, both formal and informal leaders, who take on leadership responsibilities. And while it is the responsibility of the principal to ensure that this work is being done, it is not necessarily the work that only the principal does. It is this perspective of distributed leadership that provides foundation for the Comprehensive Assessment of Leadership for Learning, or CALL. So, what is CALL? CALL is an online formative assessment and feedback system designed to measure school-wide distributed leadership. And now we'll discuss the key features of CALL. First, CALL begins with a multi-source survey, which means that all teachers, all administrators, as well as instructional and student support staff take the survey. The survey itself focuses on leadership tasks. It is practice-based. Most of the CALL survey questions inquire about practices occurring in the school, regardless of who is actually doing that work. Later, we will provide a sample CALL survey question. After the survey is completed, the CALL system automatically generates a data feedback report. The feedback contains targeted data to support school improvement. Later, we will show you a sample of this feedback system. So what does CALL actually measure? The CALL survey measures leadership practices in 5 core domains. And within each of these 5 core domains, there are 4 to 5 subdomains. These subdomains are the primary units of analysis for feedback and for the research conducted to validate this instrument. So let's talk about the 5 core domains of CALL. The first domain of CALL is focused on learning. This domain examines the extent to which school leaders prioritize student learning. It focuses on school leaders' work to establish a shared vision, promote instructional improvement, and to support students who traditionally struggle. CALL Domain 2 focuses on monitoring, teaching, and learning. The work here involves both the formative and summative evaluation of student learning, as well as both the formative and summative evaluation of teaching. Domain 3, Building Nested Learning Communities, measures leadership practices that cultivate professional learning opportunities, socially distributed leadership, and instructional support. Domain 4 focuses on the acquisition and allocation of school resources. These resources include money, time, expertise, and community involvement. Domain 5, Maintaining a safe and effective learning environment, examines the extent to which school leaders cultivate an environment conducive to learning. In this domain, student discipline policy is examined, as well as the processes for providing a safe haven to students who traditionally struggle. Now that we know what the CALL survey assesses, it is important to consider the purpose of assessing these practices, or the purpose of assessment in general? As we know, schools have a number of assessments occurring frequently throughout the year. But what are the purposes of these assessments? The act of assessment can and should be more than for evaluating efficacy. Assessments are most useful when we take the resulting information and apply it to practice. Assessment then becomes an iterative process that supports professional growth first and foremost. Therefore, rather than assess an individual, which would tell us something about a school, if we really want to get an accurate picture of leadership effectiveness, and if we want to support professional growth and school improvement, then we should really focus on and assess the work that leaders do. And that is the basic theory behind CALL, the comprehensive assessment of leadership for learning. So, how does CALL measure leadership practice? Here is a sample survey question that you might find in a traditional principal evaluation survey. How effective is the principal in providing feedback to teachers to enhance teaching? Notice that the focus here is on principal. And notice that the responses to this question about the principal are of the Likert scale variety. Here is how CALL would seek to measure this aspect of leadership practice. This school year, how much did each of the following formative feedback practices enhance teaching for the typical teacher? Notice here that the question's focus is on formative feedback practices, not on any one individual. And also notice that while the responses are of the Likert scale variety, they are assessing different types of formative feedback practices. Upon survey completion, like other survey assessments, the CALL survey provides a good amount of data. And school leaders often work with a myriad of data on a monthly, weekly, or daily basis. As a result, they are inundated with a lot of information. And then they are charged with what to do next with all of this information, which is often an overwhelming process. Well, in order for data to be useful, it needs to be timely and relevant to practice. The CALL system provides data and feedback to support school leaders. The system identifies the areas most in need of improvement, as well as the areas of strength. This is just one way to cut into a school's data. School leaders can also look into each core CALL domain and view the scores of the subdomains, perhaps considering the local initiatives taking place in their schools. Also, by clicking on View Item Details, school leaders can view the distribution of responses for each of the survey items within that subdomain. And by clicking on View Feedback, school leaders are provided with strategies and suggestions on how to improve in that area of school leadership. Now that you have a brief introduction to the CALL system and its foundation, we would like to tell you a bit about how this was developed. The CALL instrument was developed as part of a grant from the Institute of Educational Sciences in the U.S. Department of Education. The survey was based on a set of rubrics developed by the University of Wisconsin-Madison researchers based on extensive research on school leadership practice. The survey was then vetted by expert school practitioners. This was an iterative process throughout the course of CALL's development. As part of the validation of the CALL instrument, the CALL survey was piloted in 120 schools across the country. With the resulting data from that pilot of the instrument, researchers validated the CALL instrument against other measures of leadership effectiveness, such as school climate and student achievement. As a result of various research studies, researchers found the CALL instrument to be a valid and reliable tool. First, leadership experts indicated that CALL survey items measured appropriate leadership practices. Also, survey design experts ensured that the CALL survey reflected best practice for survey design. In addition, psychometric tests found CALL to contain measurement scales that meet professional standards. Finally, a factor analysis supported call item and scale design. In preparing to use call in your school, here is what you should expect. The full version of the call survey takes approximately 40 minutes to complete. The survey can be completed as a whole staff in one sitting, or you can also take the survey during an open window of time. At any time, a survey user can exit the survey and return to it and continue where the user left off. The call team will be able to provide support with the administration of the call survey.